ぶ。俺は七しです。そして、皆さん、welcome to Gameplay Shinobi. Now, I'm going to do a review of a Resident Evil Revelations 2. Now, I probably don't sound as good as the original, but please bear with me. I've been waiting with this review because, the game has been released in chapters, and I didn't want to make 4 different reviews or 4 different videos. So without further ado, let's jam. One thing that Revelations does right is the immersion, even though the environments and monsters feel a bit out of place. And the only thing that connected me to the Resident Evil franchise are the characters like Claire or Barry. Revelations 2 does a good job with keeping you interested, however, to the very end. It gives you small strips of information, whether it's by its storytelling or notes that you can find scattered around the place. Having said that, it doesn't feel like a Resident Evil game. There are no hunters or lickers this time around, and you can forget ordinary zombies too. What you get is tortured, infected monsters that we all have seen in some sort of horror suspense movies, or even in other franchises like Silent Hill. Add to that gory nature of the game, and I can't help but think that I'm watching a Saw series. Now this wouldn't be so bad. However, this is not what I expect from Resident Evil, and therefore it felt like a bad rated horror movie with a cheap, often predictable jump scares. Here's why. You go through a level, or peaceful area of the level, and then you get a jump scare. Find some enemies, get a bench for upgrades to, then pick up an important item like a key, some more jump scares, and some more enemies. Rinse and repeat. I wish there was more variety and unexpected turns of events. However, they do have, puzzles occasionally, which aren't that difficult, but they are rewarding if you complete them. Now the good thing is that you do have to do some resource managing. Save important ammo like for magnum or rifle or bombs and use them on bosses. And that creates a tension that keeps you constantly thinking what's the best move to approach the certain situation. Now since we are on the topic of immersion, I would like to mention that Capcom has reused some of the animations from Lost Planet 2. And I'm talking about the gestures. Now don't get me wrong, I got nothing against gestures in the game, but they are rather goofy and I think they break a little bit of immersion or the atmosphere, at least in my opinion. I have played through all 4 chapters and I had numerous frame rate issues that in some cases caused the death of my character, which is kind of frustrating. Even though the game has 60 frames per second, it often takes a big dip, which is very annoying, like I mentioned before. At the time of writing this review, however, Capcom has released a patch that supposedly fixes the issues with the frame rate. So I gave it a go and I tried raid mode. And you know what? It is better, but you still have frame rate issues. At least I have. Especially when spawning enemies, which is unacceptable. I mean, come on, Capcom. Fix it already. Now speaking about the bugs, some people experience lack of control. And I don't mean underwear problems, but rather keyboard being unresponsive in episode 4 while playing as Barry. Luckily, I didn't have such problems. Now, graphics in Revelations 2 are decent. However, a lot of the textures are reused and they look rather uninteresting. Level design is fairly linear, and in some places it works against the player. While playing raid mode, I found myself happy when I pushed through a level while dispatching foes. It gave me some sort of sense of progression, if you will. Then I had the levels which are confined to one small area, and you have fast moving bosses and smaller enemies as well. Yeah, while I do enjoy the challenge, I felt like it was a really cheap way of doing it. almost as if they designed it in a way so you would die. And I don't know, buy one of those crystals they have in the shop? Well, bottom line is, I prefer levels where I move from one area to another, just like in the previous Revelation game. Aside from those issues, animations are smooth and textures on characters, at least they look quite good. Now, few improvements have been made to the gameplay. Most noticeable one is the dodge button. If you combine that with a dozen of extra skills you can unlock by getting BP, which is battle points, it'll make your gameplay or experience smoother and in some cases even easier, while giving you a sense of progression by making your character stronger or a little bit more nimble. There is no get to cover button, which makes sense, and it wouldn't work in a tight quarters, but the game follows a simple pattern. Shoot at the critical points like the head or the glowing parts on the body to do the most damage, dodge the attack, run to distance yourself from the enemy, shoot him again, or throw occasional bomb or two. One thing to notice, however, is the fact that you can't quickly use a bandage or use a cloth to wipe off the mock, let's just call it. You have to go to your inventory to do that, which can put you at risk. I wish they had made separate button just like the one for using the herbs to quickly heal yourself. So yeah, that's just my only complaint. As for the support characters, they can be utterly useless and annoying. I had Moira died a couple of times because she wouldn't follow me or she would get stuck in a ridiculous place. Add to that the fact that they rarely use supportive abilities to help you, like the flashlight Moira has. But in their defense, however, I can say that they will use herbs or claws to help you, and they are okay with avoiding the dangerous traps. The thing is, the game rarely separates you, and having another character, even though it's an NPC, lessens the horror or the tensions just a little bit. Now, the stealth in the game is a hit or miss. Some sections are designed in a way that you think you can stealth them, but in reality, jump scares awaits you instead. It's also a very basic system with really dumb enemies. So you can throw a smoke bomb and you can literally stand in front of the monster and he won't notice you. It's not bad, it does the job, but it could have been better. That's just my thoughts on it. Now overall, I can give this game only 3 out of 5. And to be honest, I wanted to give it 2.5. But in the end, you get your money's worth because there's a lot of things to do and a lot of things to unlock, both in single and in raid mode. Single player campaign, what I meant. Having said that, it is really grindy experience, so quality of it sometimes is not very good. For example, you have to level up characters individually and play through the same levels all over again. Yeah, it doesn't sound very fun, does it? Now, onto the fact, microtransactions, no multiplayer, even though it was promised. And I'm not talking about split screen because there was a different campaign that the community launched at Capcom, and surprise, surprise, they got it. The Capcom is actually working on a split screen option. I'm talking about online. Now, online was supposed to be added in March. I don't know, middle March or something like that. I forgot the date now. But it's still not there, which to me is a bit disappointing because I wanted to play it online with some people. On the list of issues, we also have cheap deaths because of the enemy placement or the narrow level design or the small design, especially in the raid mode. You know, FPS problems that are still present, although the performance have been improved thanks to the patch. Now, because of that, some players can have a horrible experience. However, persevere, and you will find something satisfying and enjoyable. But I will leave it up to you guys. Thank you very much. お疲れ様です。またね。